My name is Catherine Borgia. I'm the legislator representing District 9, and I'm also the chair of the Government Operations Committee, which is the committee that has been reviewing and evaluating the 4 proposals that we have before us here tonight. I want to thank all of you for participating in this process, and I want to thank my colleagues who are here tonight as well, Legislator Judy Myers, Legislator Mary Jane Shimsky, Legislator Peter Harcum, Legislator Bill Ryan, and Legislator Michael Smith. We are actually all members of the Government Operations Committee. I wanted to just review the format for tonight. This is a public information session, so that means that we're going to try to get as much information out to the public as we can. So the first thing we'll have is the presentations by each of the vendors. I know many of you have submitted questions and comments on cards. If anyone here has not had a chance to do that, just raise your hand or indicate. We have a lot of staff members floating around. You still have the opportunity to do that. The point of this evening is to get as many questions as possible answered. So we are going to take as many questions as we can this evening, but we will post questions and answers to all of the questions that we've received tonight, as well as any questions that came to me as the chair of the Government Operations Committee, and I'll open it up to my colleagues too. If anyone has gotten any questions or comments, I'm happy to also post them on the Government Operations website at the Board of Legislators. Because we do have a lot of people here, and I see we have some signs. Traditionally at the Board of Legislators, what we do when people have come with signs is we ask you to, in a moment, I'm going to ask everyone to raise them. We'll have an opportunity for all of our cameras and any of your personal, if you want any personal cameras to take pictures, we can commemorate that, and then we're going to have them put down so that everybody has access to see all the presentations, and then there's a clear flow of information. So why don't we do that now? All of the signs, we'll see the signs. Okay, thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, very good, excellent, thank you very much. Okay, we are filming this presentation, so anyone who is not able to join us this evening will be able to access this, as they are able to access all of our Government Operations Committee meetings, where we have had the preliminary discussions with all of the vendors. Sustainable Playland has been back for a follow-up session, and the other vendors are also invited to do the same. It is part of a long process. We've been at this process for several months. This is step that we realized was necessary, though, because we wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to educate the public and to answer and to give the vendors opportunities to answer questions from the public. This is not the end of the process, though. We're not making any decisions tonight. This is an information session. We will continue to have this conversation in our Government Operations Committee and at future, probably, meetings that involve all of the Board of Legislators as well as the administration. It will be a collaborative process moving forward. I wanted to mention that legislators Michael Kaplowitz and the chairman of the Board of Legislators, Ken Jenkins, were here earlier. Many of you had an opportunity to speak to them. They did have other commitments in their district, though, so they were not able to stay for the entire part of the presentation. At this point, just wanted to make a few opening remarks. You know, the Board of Legislators takes all of our decisions very seriously, and as elected officials, one of the things we have to think about is not only how decisions we make impact us immediately or in the short term, but really how they impact us for many, many years after all of us are no longer in these seats. So that was why at this critical juncture in our evaluation process, we decided that we really needed to open this process up to the public. This is our first public meeting, but I'm fairly certain that it won't be our last. Oh, we're being joined right now by Legislator Lyndon Williams, the Vice Chair of our Board of Legislators. Thank you for being with us. So, as I said, the next step of the process is that we are going to hear presentations. Oops, that's a little preview of one of them. It has music. We're going to hear the presentations. I wanted to mention also some of the background things that the board is doing. We have commissioned Deloitte & Touche to do an audit of the Playland operations as they exist now, and also to do review of all the proposals that we've received so far. So if you have specific financial questions that are not answered right now, you will have access to that information, obviously, as it comes to us. So I'm so happy that you came out tonight. I know there's threat of some bad weather, but it's great to see all of you here. We will try to answer and get out as much information as we can, and anything that we don't get a chance to answer, you will have an opportunity to get your answers, and all of your comments will be recorded and posted. So it'll be transparent process. At the Board of Legislators, we do all of our processes in the most open and transparent manner, and we find that involvement of the public really makes our decision making much, much, much better. So we're going to begin the presentations. At any point in the process, if you haven't had a chance to fill out a comment card, or if something occurs to you as you hear a presentation, just raise your hand and one of our staff members will come to you with one of our comment cards, question cards, and a pen. Okay, so I'm going to begin by introducing our first presenter, which is Central Amusements CAI, and I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening.
Excellent.
My name is Valerio Ferrari. I'm the president of Central Amusement International. I thank everyone for the opportunity they are going to give us to make a little presentation about our proposal. I'm clearly a minority here, but I hope you're going to stay with me for a few minutes. We are an amusement ride operator in the New York area for quite some time at this point. We've been operate 2 amusement parks, one in Central Park and one in Coney Island. We are the operational side of a larger company called Zamperla. We manufacture amusement rides, and we want one of the largest amusement rides in the world. And actually, we're working with a couple of people also representing other group in this room. And we have a workforce of 450 people around the world. The main facility is in Italy, but you have a very large one in New Jersey. As I was saying, our operational side is called Central Amusement International, and we are an operator that been established in 2002 here in New York. And the first amusement park that we opened was in Central Park, and with 12 family attractions. But as we say in Italia, the appetito vien mangiando, so you get hungry and you start eating. And when in 2009 we had the opportunity to start working with the city of New York in Brooklyn, we had a very, very challenge, because we were done the opportunity at the beginning of February of 2010, and we opened an amusement park with 19 new attractions, state of the art. One of them with the world debut in May 28th of the same year, 100 days later. Working with the city, so we had made a lot of experience working with it was a perfect cooperation between the public sector, us, and the public. The private sector, us, and the public, of course. But we kept going. For the initial 3 acres, we added the Scream Zone with 2 roller coasters. It was the first time in 40 years that Coney Island, Brooklyn, so a new roller coaster, and another couple of pay-up attractions. And in 2011, we also took over the Cyclone roller coaster, so we are very familiar to run all the amusement attractions. It's 85 years old. It just turned 85 June 27 last year. And another area parcel with of a couple of acres with go-karts and pay-up attraction like the Sky Coaster. Our cooperation with the city of New York doesn't stop here. This year we're going to take over the B&B Carousel. Is an attraction that the city of New York purchased 6-7 years ago and has been completely refurbished. It's a $25 million project, and it's called Steeplechase Plaza with the B&B Carousel, and we've been awarded the license to run this carousel for the next 15 years. At the same time, this year we're also going to be introducing some very flashy lighting package to the parachute jump. Maybe some of you driving by Brooklyn on the Bell Parkway have seen this almost 300 feet tall attraction. We're going to be installing a $2 million lighting package. It's going to be really a beacon for the people driving by. So therefore, a little history of what we are doing right now in New York as an amusement park operator. But we also have our proposal for Ride Playland. We want to keep Ride Playland the way it is, but just refreshing it, make it much nicer, much better. One key element of our proposal is the free admission of what we're going to be trying to do. And being a roller coaster, amusement ride manufacturer, we're going to be introducing over the first 5 years 22 new attractions. We have a plan. Each year we're going to be introducing something new. These are just few examples of the ride that we're going to be introducing in the years to come. Some of it will be like this one, an interactive children ride. Some other will be a gigantic pendulum ride, which are going to be the love for the teenagers. Some other will be like spinning coaster that will be selling all over the world. And of course, after these first 5 years, we're going to be introducing rides every year, because we're going to keep Playland as our showcase. We're going to bring people from all over the world to take a look at our attraction. And wherever we're going to be making new, it will be displayed, be viewed for the worldwide in Playland. But we are as an experienced amusement ride operator, amusement park operator, so we know that rides is not enough. So we're going to be introducing a a new water play area on the existing old swimming pool. We're going to completely renew the golf course, a multi-level golf course, and very nicely themed. Also, we believe that we need to be part of the community, so the South Beach, South House will become a children's center. It's sort of a very high-end daycare where they will get along very well with the present museum, children's museum. And we're going to be introducing other venues such as Camp Playland, and we're going to be looking for an expert operator to run the ice casino. We are already in touch with a couple of persons that will be very interested to run that for us. We also have already commitment from Culinar, the present operator of the food within Playland. We believe that they're paying a little bit too much rent, so we're going to be introducing with them a new price structure, a new food facility, and also much healthier items. As I said before, we know how to run amusement park in the New York area. So with the addition of Playland to our existing lineup, I think we're going to have a much greater buying power in the local market, and we're going to do mainly. This is one example of the station domination that we did in Brooklyn, and our business plan allow a 10% marketing expenses of the revenue of each year. We're also going to be looking at the historic preservation of the beautiful structure that are in Coney Island, in Playland, and we are probably the only one of the proposals that we're going to be introducing 5% revenue toward the preservation and the infrastructure of the park every year. And but I think better than anything else of my little speech here is a video that will be able to present you our vision for Playland for the 21st century. No. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next presenter is going to be Standard Amusement. I just have to indicate.
Well, good evening. We are Standard Amusements. My name is Andy Maniglia. I'm here with Nick Singer, Tom Kelly, and Jack Falfus. And although we're very grateful for the legislature for holding these sessions, and while it is certainly night has fallen outside in White Plains, it's government in the sunshine in here. And thank you very much for holding these. We're very excited about our proposal to manage Playland, and I would ask you to pay close attention to the finer details that Nick Singer will explain about our plan. But I would also ask you to consider for yourself who has the cash on hand right now, what is the plan for Playland going forward, and will that individual, that company work with existing labor, the existing unions and employees who are there now, who've devoted their life to Playland? And you have to keep those issues in mind as we go through the process. And of course, who has the experience to do that as well? Thank you. I've seen a lot of people here and this is a representative form of government. I think it's great. I've seen a lot of people here with their signs up from SPI. So we're going to mark them down as undecided right now. Okay, and then we'll get back to them. But let me introduce Nick Singer. Nick Singer is the president and managing co-partner of Standard General, and it is his plan for Standard Amusements, and Nick Singer's right here now.
Got it. Hey, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Nicholas Singer. I'm one of the co-founders of Standard General. Standard General is an investment firm here in New York City. Can we get the first slide up? Put a little. Got this. Technical difficulty. One moment. All right. So as I was saying, I'm one of the co-founders of Standard General. Standard General is an investment fund located in New York City. We manage a little over $500 million of capital. Our investors are endowments, foundations, pension funds, and we have a deep interest in the amusement industry. Just a little on myself. I actually am a Harrison resident. I just grew up my whole life there. Spent my whole life going to Playland, from watching Halley's Comet crossover from the Edith Reed Sanctuary to going to the beach to going to the amusement park every summer. So I'm very passionate about Playland. Can we just go back to that slide, to one back? So what we decided when we heard there was an opportunity to do something with Playland, we always felt that there was so much there to Playland. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with Playland. It just it's suffered from years of underinvestment. And it's sad for all of us who've been going there our whole lives to kind of watch where Playland is today. So when the county executive put out his request for proposals, we went out and we found who we deemed to be the best operator in the country, Jack Falfus, almost 40 years of experience in the amusement industry. Most recently, the chief operating officer of Cedar Fair, one of the largest amusement park companies in the country. And we put together what we thought would be a thoughtful plan, and really a plan that, in our mind was, in some ways, I guess, the plan of least resistance to restoring Playland. And what I mean by that is we are not, and I'm going to go into some detail, we are not looking to radically alter the park. We think the park is fine the way it is. It needs investment, it needs to be cleaned up, it needs kind of better food service, it needs some new rides, not throw rides. We're going to keep it family oriented, but it needs to be cleaned up so it's a place that people actually want to go. In addition, as part of our plan, which we'll get into, we're also going to improve the free public community spaces. So next slide. So we already talked a little bit about our firm. Next slide. This is Jack Falf's background. You know, he's standing over on the side. He's around today if you guys want to speak to him, and we'll be answering questions with us later. Next slide. So, you know, this kind of is one of the things that underpins our thinking, and it's worth just noting. You know, there's nothing wrong with amusements today. There's a lot of things about, you know, Playland, it's busted, it doesn't work. That's definitely not the case. I mean, the reality is the amusement park industry is a growing industry, it's healthy. The park itself, again, has just suffered from underinvestment. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about the specifics around our plan. So first and foremost, we're committing $25 million to this venture. And I really want to emphasize, and it's something you should all think about as you evaluate our proposal and other proposals, is who has the cash on hand today? We have all the cash on hand today that we're going to spend, and everyone should think very carefully about the different proposals and the financing risk that's embedded in them. Because to the extent that people don't have the money on hand today, and they're promising you all these different things that they're going to do at Playland, and they come up short, you, the taxpayer, and the county resident is going to be on the hook. So with that, number one, we're going to improve the physical plant. You know, we're going to go repaint everything, restore it to the way it used to look in its former grandeur. We're going to get rid of this Burger King, and we're going to go and bring in, you know, high quality food that people want to eat. In terms of games, we're going to go and bring back some traditional games, bring them in-house, also add 3-point shot rides. We're going to add some new rides, including a little water park by the beach. Entertainment, we're going to add live shows. We're going to extend the season a little bit with a Halloween and Thanksgiving and winter festival. Next slide. In terms of the employees, you know, our plan is to keep Playland and grow it a little bit. So all the current employees are going to be offered employment. We're willing to engage in collective bargaining with the current employees. We're also very aware that Playland is the largest employer of Westchester County youth, particularly in the summer. We plan to grow that and continue to focus on hiring Westchester County youth. We have some additional bullets on safety and security. Clearly, that's paramount. You know, the park, part of the problem with the park is that to some extent suffers from a perception that it may not be safe. That's one thing we're very focused on in terms of making sure people know that they're safe and secure there. We're going to definitely increase marketing to the order of $2 million a year. It's currently about $600,000. Next slide. So we were actually the runner-up in the county executives process, and as part of that, we actually modified our original proposal from just focusing on the amusement park to also creating some free, I guess I'd call it free community assets. And specifically, there's been a lot of talk about play fields and everything else. So we offered on our own dime to basically build 4 different play fields, 2 at the back of the parking lot, 2 on the isthmus that's kind of before the Edith Reed Sanctuary. Those will be grass, so they're going to be environmentally friendly. We're going to do this again all as part of our proposal, and in addition, we're going to run those on our own expense. Next slide. We have a lot of detail here about the proposal. I don't know how much people want to get into it, so I'm just going to kind of gloss over it. But again, we have a $25 million commitment. In the first 5 years, there's going to be roughly $20 million that gets invested in the park. We're also giving additional proceeds to the county because the county's incurred quite a amount of debt with Playland. And in addition, we're going to give the county a long-term note payable. And what that really just translates into is once we have the opportunity to recoup our investment and make our profit, all the excess goes to the county. So if we can really do what we plan to do, we will do okay, and I think the county will do quite well as well. Next slide. These are benefits. One thing also to think about as everyone goes about this, and this is a little technical, but I'll just bring it up here, is, you know, Playland is a county asset. You have to be very sensitive until how you structure your agreement with it. You know, you can't do long-term leases. You can't do anything else. That's something everyone should be very mindful of. Our plan is going to keep Playland as a nonprofit entity, and at the end of the day, we're just going to be managing it. Could go past this. Could go past this. You know, I guess at this point, you know, I guess we're going to do Q&A later. So, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to mention that all these proposals, most of the proposals are available on the Board of Legislators website under the Government Operations page. Anything that we've received here, we're also going to make available to you. And to the extent that it's possible, we'll scan in all of the handouts that were given by the vendors today and also make that available electronically so that everyone has all of the information that they need. Okay, next up, we are going to hear from the Paidia Group, which is Legoland. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name's Tanya Pope. I'm with the Paidia Company. Our proposal was, despite what some of you might have heard or wondered about, we were one of the original 11/12 proposals. The fact that we were working with Legoland has not been made public until more recently, but we were in from the very beginning. When we looked at the proposal and at the opportunity, we really responded to the original request that to think big, bold, new reinvention as to how this park can continue for another century. When we looked at it, it was like, well, what's the most important things to the community? If you close your eyes and think about Playland, what do you really think about? Do you think about the architecture? Do you think about a specific ride? Or do you think about the smile on your child's face, the laughter in from their experiences? Do you remember your own experiences, how much joy you had? We think it's those emotions that are the most important parts of Playland. That's our history. It's what we remember. It's the joy, and what the park has always meant for children, especially. We also listened to the community as far as what they saw as things that they wanted to see at Playland, and education has been something that has been talked about quite often over the last few years, with trying to add educational elements to one facility or another, but trying to add that aspect to it. We felt that the best way to do that was to combine something that really was putting the kids first, responded to kids, and offered the educational as well. In order to do that kids first approach, we decided to work with Merlin Entertainment and Legoland. Legos are nostalgia. Everybody remembers playing with Legos when they were kids, and the child down the street that always had more than you did never ran out of red. And you always remembered running out of a color because you didn't have enough of doing something. But it's something that you remember from your childhood. You remember playing. You play with them now. If you have a young child, you sit on the floor with them if you're not stepping on them, and helping your child build things. This is an educational toy that everybody can relate to. From a park standpoint, turning it into a Legoland park helps us keep Playland, the heart of Playland, those emotions, the joy, the smile on a child's face. It lets us keep those aspects intact. As I said, Legoland is owned by Merlin Entertainment. Merlin Entertainment is the second largest themed entertainment venue operator in the world. They're second only to Disney. They operate all over the world, and they have a number of different attractions. They began actually with Sea Life, which is something we're going to talk about at the end of this presentation as well. That was one of their first attractions. They added on, they bought into the Legoland parks in 2002, I think, and expanded into a lot more venues. Annually, around the globe, they get 46 million visitors to their attractions, but their attractions are primarily small venues. Their revenue, 801 million pounds. I don't know the exchange rate, but they are a very successful company and have 20,000 employees around the globe. The Legoland or amongst the different parks, they have midway attractions, which is Madame Tussauds, the Dungeon, Sea Life, Legoland Discovery Center, which is going in Yonkers. It's going to be opened up in a couple months. There's smaller venues. That's not what we're talking about for Playland. They also have the Legoland Park Division. They currently have 6 Legoland theme parks around the world. They also operate 6 theme parks. These are all in Europe. They're sizable theme parks, but again, those are all in Europe, and that's Merlin Entertainment. For Legoland, this is where the video comes in to show you exactly what a Legoland park is if you've never been to one. Now that video was for Legoland California, which is a much bigger footprint. They have the hotel, the water park, not what we're talking about at Playland. Definitely not the hotel especially. Like I said, that's a bigger footprint, so they can do more things there. But you can see that the rides have a lot of interaction. They really like to see participatory play, so the kids are actually involved in what they're doing. They're not just sitting there, they're doing things, they're building, they're just really participating. And it's a lot of family and partnering and group activities. Legoland obviously gets their name from Legos. The Lego Group is a family-owned company, started in 1932 in Denmark. The mission of the company, they want to inspire the builders of tomorrow. A lot of play, a lot of education. Anybody, like I said, if you got kids, you know Legos are educational toys. As they get older, I mean, when they're younger, they're figuring out different colors, they're using those creative skills. As they get older, they figure out building and engineering and technology that associates with them, whether it's robotics. Lego sponsors Robots First competition, that's where kids from elementary all the way up to high school build robots that fight each other and do activities, shoot basketballs. It's a different activity every year that the robots have to do, but Lego's one of the sponsors for that. This is the 3-generation family. The little guy is the one that's currently running the show. But it is still a family-owned company, which means they really believe in families. That's one thing they stress everywhere. They're headquartered in Denmark. They have their manufacturing production in various places around the world. The Legos themselves, as you know them today, have been around since 1958. Started off as a toy company. They turned into plastics, but the little clutch to make the blocks actually connect together was 1958. So they have a very long history. And again, that nostalgia is everybody knows them. And it's a worldwide attraction, or it's not just people in the United States that know them, it's people everywhere that knows them. And the wheels are one of the things they're quite proud of. They actually, I think, manufacture more tires than anybody else in the world. They're little ones, but they're tires. And they've added to their product line over the years to make it more interactive, make it more educational, and to appeal to a wider group of kids. There's fun facts, though. All these fun facts are on the information is on the legislators' websites as well. With the Legoland parks, as I said, there are currently 6. They appeal primarily to children 2 to 12. They do children, and they do them well. They don't try to do anything else, because kids need to come first every once in a while. If you take your kid to a Six Flags park, the younger one is trailing behind. They're not tall enough for something. They get left out. Even on a day-to-day basis, families are so busy that the little ones are often having to just tag around after the big brother and the big sister. Kids need to come first every once in a while. And at a Lego park, they get to. Kids are absolutely first. Everything that you see at a Legoland park is about the kids, whether it's standing in line. There's when you get into a line for a ride, there's a sign that says, "Hey parents, hey kids, let your parents stand in line for you while you come play." And there's a little Duplo center in the middle where the parents get to see the child. They know exactly where the child is, but the child is playing while the parents stand in line until they get close to the front of the line. So the kids get to play, they have activities, they're safe because the parents see exactly where they are. But it's still, the kids get to come first. They don't have to stand there being bored in line. Let's see. Of the 6 parks, the very first one opened in 1968 in Denmark. The second one opened in 96 in Windsor. Then they added their first park in the United States, 99, was Legoland, California. That one, like I said, they've just recently opened the water park. The hotel opens in a couple months, I think. Germany opened in 2002. Florida, which is something we'll talk about more, it opened in 2011. Malaysia just opened this past October. It was their first park outside of Europe and the United States. One of the things their parks are known for is their mini lands. That's where they build these incredible structures that reflect the location that they're at. They do, while it's all sorts of different cities from around the world, they take into account where they are. The park in Florida has a space center and a space shuttle that launches every 20 minutes. They've got the countdown and everything. The kids stand around waiting for that 20 minutes to be up if they missed the last launch because they want to see the next launch. And they're interactive as well. You can press buttons and let them do things. And it teaches them a little bit about the world. They have sculptures throughout the park that the kids can play with and take pictures with. They also have a lot of interactive rides. Some of those that you saw on the video, it's a lot of group activities, a lot of kids, like I said, doing things. They stress education. They also have a lot of shows. This bottom one on the left, that is one that they have in Florida, which the Florida park was a historic park. Cypress Gardens opened in 1928, so it's very similar to the situation we have here. What was important historically about that park and what it was known for was its water ski shows. Back in the 50s and 60s, you had pyramids of water skiers being pulled, and it was a very, very, very popular show, and it was, like I said, something the park was known for. So they took that and turned it into a Lego ski show. So it's little Lego guys and pirates, and they turned it into a Lego thing, but it still paid homage to the historically important water ski show. Again, you have a lot of play activities, imagination centers, Megastorm. This on the bottom right is one of their sea life aquariums, which they'd like to add to this facility as well, depending on some of the footprint issues. The sea life aquarium would be a year-round facility. Top left, that's the driving school, which kids love. They go through the DMV, they get their picture made, they get to learn the rules of the road, and then they get to drive all by their little lonesome, and you would never think that stopping at a red light is the funnest thing in the world. But they love it, and they can't wait. They think they're the biggest hot shots in the world, that they're sitting there, and when it's green, I get to go. And then when they get to earn their driver's license at the end, they are elated. My 10-year-old, who has seen lots of theme parks, earned her driver's license 4 months ago and is still talking about it. So, and 10-year-olds, they can be picky. So that's saying something that she's still talking about it. They also have retail and food. They do all their food in-house, so it's high quality, nutritious food. The sea life, as I said, is something that they would like to add to the footprint as well. They do a lot of conservation programs with the sea life aquariums. They do, in addition to education with the community, they do a lot of conservation and rehabilitation and being able to really improve the waters of the world. Legoland, Florida, like I said, that's more of a case study because it is a very similar situation. They kept a lot of the historic elements. They Legoized it, but they definitely kept the things that were the most important to the community and paid homage to it. They turned it into Lego, but it's still there at some degree somehow. They also wanted to benefit Polk County. It's located in Polk County. It's about 40 miles south of Disney, so it's a little off the beaten path. They really wanted Polk County to benefit from having Legoland there. They pride themselves on being very good neighbors. During the construction phase, they hired residents of Polk County. They didn't have people from Orlando driving down. They, same thing with operations. They wanted local peoples working at the park. They hire youth. They love to hire seniors because grandparents love to be able to work, play with the little kids as well. They're a very strong employer in the area. They give back as much as they can. They also like to work with the schools in Polk County. They give all second graders at public schools in Polk County get free field trips there. It's a 45-minute education program where they get to learn how to build a robot that's solar powered. So they learn about solar energy, they learn about robots, and at the end of their 45 minutes, they get to go play at the rest of the park. And so these are kids that may not be able to go there for whatever reason. They still get the opportunity because they're Polk County kids. And that's pretty much everything about Legoland.
Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, our final presentation will be from Sustainable Playland. There are all the undecided voters. Okay, let's start the presentation, please.
That was exciting. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kim Morkway. I'm the president of Sustainable Playland. And first, I want to thank the Government Operations Committee and Chairman Borgia and the legislators for the opportunity this evening to come and participate in the public information session. With me tonight is, many of our board members. So I want to acknowledge them, our consultant team, many members of our consultant team, our operating partners that are up here with me. Paidia's here. And I also want to thank all our supporters that came out this evening, from Sound Shore communities and across Westchester. We very much appreciate it, and we thank you for all your support and your hard work over the last few years. We have a few slides that are going to illustrate the management structure that we're proposing, a little bit about our operators and who they are. Yeah, Tony, why don't you do it? And then we have a short video that we're going to play. So, next slide, please. So, it really is a public-private partnership. It's a conservancy model where we have government input, private sector input, citizens that come together that really oversee and have a fiduciary role for Playland Park. And we have professional park management with our park manager, Dan Biederman Redevelopment Ventures, and we have him at the asset management company level, and we have our operators, private businesses that operate the different venues throughout the park. We bring a tremendous amount of experience with our team, and both in amusement parks as well as open space and park management. Next slide, please. So, and this slide is just a little more interactive one that shows how the interplay amongst the parties. Next slide, please. So, Biederman Redevelopment Ventures, Dan Biederman, they are a park manager. Dan is a leading manager of parks, public spaces, plazas, and open spaces in New York City and really around the country. Has made a career out of doing great things. Bryant Park is one of his best examples, certainly, but he was recently awarded the Military Square Park in Newark to redevelop that park as well. Next slide. Our amusement park operator is Mega Funworks. Steve Turk is the principal. He's here with me, right next to me. Steve operates, he's a local businessman here in New York, operates 2 venues, one in Highland, New York, and one in Fishkill. One is a splashdown park, which is a water park, and the other is a full-service family resort year-round.
TripAdvisor number 2 in the country, number 3 in the world.
And he knows it pays to advertise. Our ice rink operator is American Skating, Shane Coppola. They operate 15 facilities around the country, 2 rinks here in Westchester County, and very experienced, knowledgeable, seasoned operators in the ice skating field. And we also have with us John Abate and Eric DeGraw from Playland Sports, and Norm Gill, their operating management and operating partner for the indoor and outdoor facilities. John and Eric are local businessmen. Norm has been in the business over 20 years in the sports and rec industry. And finally, I do want to mention the Westchester Children's Museum. They were part of our proposal initially. They're part of our proposal now. We think there's great synergies with them. We've been in ongoing discussions and dialogue and working on an integration of the plans. So with that, I'd like to roll our video, and then we're happy to answer questions at the end of the session.
Playland is a county resource that has a special place in the hearts of many of us that grew up in Westchester. It's a place we came as children. It's a place we brought our children to. I remember teaching my daughters how to drive in the parking lot here in the wintertime.
Well, I grew up in Rye, so Playland, I was going there from probably who knows when, the time I was a little girl.
From the boardwalk to getting hot dogs or running around on the beach, getting yelled at by all the lifeguards, to doing the old Dragon Coaster Challenge, which was a milestone when you're old enough to ride it, and to see if you could do it with without holding on. It was just a great childhood experience for me.
So often after work, I would get on my bike and ride out to the boardwalk and just sit and look at the sound.
Actually worked at Playland one summer, which was really fun. It's been a part of my life for many, many years.
It's just a phenomenal resource that unfortunately has been let deteriorate and needs to be brought back to its former glory.
Playland is among the elite of landmarks. That's what the designation National Historic Landmark means. It means that it's of national importance, not just to the people of Rye or the people in Westchester County, but to the nation as a whole. Playland had it all. It had the water, it had nature and the parks, it had great architecture, and it had family fun. It had a certain degree of class to it, even at that time. It had elegance.
I think it was around August of 2010 that we heard that Rob Astorino was putting out an RFP, request for proposal, with what to do with Playland. And living in the community, we wanted to learn more about what his thoughts were on what he wanted to do with the park and how we could contribute.
This we put together an open house at our home. We expected a few people, like 150 people actually showed up. We had the county, we had Judy Myers, our legislator, and I remember saying that this is democracy in action.
And lots of ideas were discussed at that meeting. We didn't really have anything in mind other than to sort of get the community together and have a conversation. Doug came to us after that and said that he would like to work with us with his master's thesis and see if we could turn it into a plan.
I originally chose this for my master's thesis at University of Virginia because it was one of those things where I saw an opportunity that even back in the late 70s, that Playland wasn't what it originally was, certainly, and it wasn't serving the needs, the recreational needs of Westchester County.
So we looked at the idea of an expanded ice rink. We looked at the idea of bringing new food facilities, higher quality food facilities. We looked at the idea of bringing indoor and outdoor fields to Westchester County, which is in great need of those fields. We looked at the idea of amusements and where the amusement business was going. And could an amusement park that was focused more on family rides as opposed to the big thrill rides thrive? And in all cases, that the elements that were very thoughtfully put together actually have demand in the market, and we feel are both market supportable and, more importantly, financially sustainable.
Well, the work is, you may or may not know, there's removals on areas to create the green space over near the water. There's the renovation of the historical rides, which takes some work. And then in the longer range plan, there is the development of the new facilities on the parking lot, which are the majority of the new construction work.
Well, Norwalk is a great case study, quite frankly. And there we've been involved in a public-private partnership with the city for going on 15 years. But, it took two elements, really. It took a great, vision from the city fathers to put a plan in place, and then, of course, it took the private sector to come in and be able to, take those plans and shape them and evolve them and ultimately build them out.
We, Sustainable Playland, and the consultants are concerned citizens, but we also need to have the wherewithal, the management experience to make this a successful park.
And the key to that I found was the most centerpiece of what we did was the development of true public-private partnerships. Because, let's face it, government isn't what it was like in the old days where there was an endless spigot of money. It's not like that any longer. You have to be creative, you have to be thoughtful and insightful to figure out ways that you can bring in the private sector to then work with the public in such a manner that the output is something that both the public and private like.
The sources of revenue include sponsorships, public event revenues involving private sector companies, concession revenues that are enhanced way beyond what the numbers were before. And then in the case of our urban assets, support from the surrounding real estate owners. Here in Bryant Park, we have all the surrounding building owners, 33 of them, paying into a fund for common maintenance.
We plan on investing several $1 million to bring this park back.
One of our first investments was the Westchester Skating Academy in Elmsford, and if you look back at the history of that, the first several years it was unsuccessful and it looked to be very risky and maybe not a great idea, and then you get the right people in place and the right programs in place, and now it's one of the most successful ice skating rinks in the country.
It's a fantastic business if you find the right location, and this, you really need the demand. And in fact, it's possibly one of the best areas in the country to build something because there's so much demand around here.
There are some folks talking about, investing as much as $13 or $14 million in one element of this plan. The overall investment will be about $33.5 million. But when people are willing to put up significant dollars, that's a real validation of the plan.
The whole community really wins, and there's so many people who are excited by this that it's not just our organization. I mean, the input of the community is what is making this such a great plan.
That this is the kind of park that for decades is going to be relevant to Westchester residents, but it's also sustainable in the sense that it's going to be the right thing for the environment at this location.
Sustainable Playland is poised to bring the families back to ride Playland.
And what I think it's important to recapture and to preserve is the original elegance and architectural continuity that this park originally had.
It's time really for Playland to be rethought. It's time for it to become a better neighbor. It's time for it to be a better integration into the way that the county needs to use this property for recreation.
Just to know that we've established a broad base of support both at the bottom level with the rank and file people, the users, to at the senior level with some of the people and the heads of businesses and heads of government and localities that we have here, to be able to kind of all come together and put their differences aside and actually think about what's in the best interest for the people in the county of Westchester.
If you value the environment, if you value history, if you value healthy lifestyles, if you value that places have got to evolve, then this is the plan.
More park, more play.
More park, less paving.
Okay, thanks. Thanks very much, everyone. Thanks for the presentations. We've gathered together a lot of questions. I've tried to group them by subject matter so that we can hit the most questions possible in the time that we have remaining. As I said, if we do not get a chance to answer all of the questions, we certainly will get the answers, post all of the questions with their answers on our website. I'm going to start out with a group of questions that relate to environmental concerns, and I guess I'll ask that maybe we go from Central first, and then we'll sort of take turns going first with the answers to these questions. So obviously every vendor will have an opportunity to answer if you choose to. If you don't choose to, that's fine too. Okay, the first group of questions are about the environment. The Friends of Reed Wildlife Sanctuary are deeply concerned about the placement of fields and parking areas on the sensitive buffer areas adjoining the sanctuary, as well as the placement of garbage dumpsters. How will you mitigate the negative impacts of these hazards? And before you jump in, noise carries far over water and disturbs animals and people. Does your plan have elements intended to reduce noise or contain noise? This is a more general question, where do all the plans stand on the environmental guidelines laid out by the sustainable sites? Do any other than SPI reduce blacktop and runoff? SPI's plan includes an environmentally sensitive buffer with the Reed Wildlife Sanctuary, same sort of question. And what are CAI, SA, and Legoland plans for those environmentally sensitive areas adjoining the lake, the Long Island Sound, and the Edith Reed Wildlife Sanctuary? Okay, I'll ask Central to go first, and then we'll just go down the line and have all the vendors answer these questions.
As I said at the beginning, we are very much used to work with the public sector. In New York City, we have in Central Park, we are working very closely with the Conservancy, and with our amusement park, we're facing this kind of issue on a daily basis. So we're going to be ready to discuss it with any concern when the time comes.
Thank you, Central. I'm sorry, Standard.
Yeah, so I guess two distinct questions. So first, as it relates to Edith Reed, we're very sensitive to Edith Reed. But by way of background, again, I grew up in the area, was a member of Audubon, Greenbird Nature Society. I used to go to Edith Reed, so we certainly don't want to do anything to disturb it. I guess specifically to your question, as it relates to the isthmus, that little back area, those will be grass fields. So there's currently grass. It's going to continue to be grass. The parking lot, which is currently, I believe, gravel, dirt, we were thinking about paving it to make it easier to park. There's going to be a considerable amount of distance, though, from the last field to actually where Edith Reed begins, so it shouldn't impact the birds. And then specifically, which I guess and then you mentioned the dumpsters. We don't plan to put the dumpsters back there. It doesn't make a lot of sense to put dumpsters right on your way to a bird sanctuary. As it relates to noise, again, we're very sensitive to the local community. We plan to start a community-based advisory group to make sure we address any concerns around noise. Again, we don't think it should be a problem. We're not growing the footprint of the amusement park. We're not putting in any major thrill rides. We are not changing the hours, you know, the days of operations. We're going to be adding Monday, but we're not going to be extending the hours of operation. So I would say incrementally, we don't plan to create more noise. And I guess the last thing that we sometimes hear comments about are the fireworks. We're open to, again, discussing with the community-based advisory group whether how to handle the fireworks, because there seems to be some people that like it and there's some that are often disturbed by it. Lastly, the new fields which we're adding that are at the back of the parking lot and on the isthmus, I don't think those are going to be, you know, fairly low intensity uses. So I don't think that should impact the immediate houses that are adjacent to those areas.
With Legoland, they are very conscious of being environmental stewards. In Florida, the state, they operate or manage the botanical gardens, which are a nature preserve, basically. It's protected by the state. They are the ones that maintain it. They are the ones that incorporate it into educational programs. They feel that, you know, the Edith Reed Sanctuary is not something that is even so much as, oh, it's over there. It's really an extension of the education programs. They would love the opportunity to be able to work with you, actually, with being able to incorporate ecological education with things that they already do in the park, with that Isthmus Peninsula. They do currently have it kind of earmarked for staff parking, but it would be an environmentally friendly parking design so that it does not interfere ecologically, environmentally with you know, any runoff or anything like that. As far as sound is concerned, this is a kids park, so it's not big, loud, screaming machines to begin with, for the most part. They also, kids have bedtimes, so you know, it would probably, in the shoulder seasons, spring and fall, they'd be closing at 5 o'clock. And 8 o'clock during the summer. So it's not a loud park to begin with. I mean, if you go to any of their parks, they're very restful. It is a good word if you enjoy your day there because you're not hustling and bustling. It's a very restful environment, and it is quiet, especially for a theme park.
Thank you.
Just quickly, our plan initially incorporated and incorporates, I should say, you know, best practices in construction and sustainable development practices, such as rain gardens. There is a current advisory council actually with Edith Reed. We work closely with Edith Reed in preparing our plan, and you know, overall, our plan is much more sensitive to the edge, both of Rye Lake as well as to the Sound Shore edge. And we want to reduce impervious surface. Our plan does that. We create the Great Lawn, so there's no overall reduction in impervious surface. So we're trying to be very sensitive to a very sensitive environmental area.
Okay.
We should also mention that Joy Reisenberg from Edith Reed is here. She's the president of the Friends of Edith Reed, and the board of Edith Reed endorses and supports SBI.
Yes, indeed. I actually read her question. Thank you. Hers was the first question that was read. Thank you very much. Okay, some of the presentations touched on this, but let me ask this question too, because I know that this is of concern to many people in the room. Supporters of the Westchester Children's Museum would like each group to publicly confirm whether or not their plan for reinventing Playland, so the handwriting is a little difficult, honors the existing agreement between the Westchester Children's Museum and the County Board of Legislators for the operation of the Westchester Children's Museum in the North Bathhouse. So why don't we go ahead and start with standard? Yeah.
I guess we're going first. So,
yeah.
Oh, you want to?
Was it your question?
What?
No, I think we're just trying to.
Okay, we'll go first. The Central Amusements International Group recognizes the need for a children's museum, endorses the Children's Museum, and stands behind the agreement signed between the Board of Legislators and the Children's Museum. We look forward to working together with them in providing mutual programming throughout the park, mutual marketing, and most of all, we intend to build a children's center, also located in the same line and at the beach by the bathhouse. It would be, for those of you who are familiar with the location of the Children's Center, it would be at the opposite end, closer to Wright Town Park. And in that Children's Center, we intend to provide programming for young children in the arts, in dance, in cooking, and many educational programs. We want to work together with the Children's Museum in developing that plan and that program, and that also includes Reed Sanctuary. We want to work together with them as well around our Children's Center to make sure we're providing something that's comprehensive, something that's needed, and something that can be supported across the board by all of the children's programming in the park.
Thank you. We'll move on.
So we too are very supportive of the Children's Museum, and frankly are hard pressed to see how anyone could not be supportive of the Children's Museum. We think it's a great idea. It's clearly synergistic with the park. We in an early discussion with the Children's Museum, we even suggested that I think currently right on the part that's by the beach, they actually even plan to have their office, which isn't necessarily the best use of space because it's beachfront property. We suggested there is a little office building at the entrance of Playland. We would certainly offer them free office space so they have more room for their activities for the children. So we're very supportive of the Children's Museum.
Thank you.
Legoland is educational and deals with children 2 to 12. I don't see how that is any way, shape, or form a conflict with the Children's Museum. Whether it's exactly where it's been planned, I think we can work with that. I think there is a lot of opportunity for them as well to work mutually for possibly something that may be slightly different location, but offers them advantages that their current plan didn't. And like I said, we can work with them where they are. It's not a problem. But if we incorporate a sea life and some other things, moving things around a little bit gives them opportunities by being associated with a Legoland park there that they wouldn't have otherwise. And I think it would be a win-win. But like I said, 2 to 12-year-olds is an education.
Great. Thank you. I know Sustainable has already addressed this, but please answer. Yeah.
Yes, our plan did include Westchester Children's Museum in the North Bathhouse. We've had ongoing dialogue with them. We think there's great synergies and look forward to working with them.
Excellent. Why don't you hold on to the microphone so you can answer the first question the next time around. Okay, we have 2 questions about the ice rink. The first is by a young person who I'm not sure is still here, but will the ice rink stay the same whatever happens? That's from one of our young constituents. And a more detailed question is, will the rink reopen? Who will be in charge of the skating rink in your programs? If so, what will happen to the skating rink employees? And can there be some communication set up for employees that if their functions are to change?
Well, I'll give you the general answer. Any more specific, Shane could come and answer. But
sure.
It's going to be much improved.
Okay. Thank you.
No, we plan on investing significant amount of capital to upgrade the physical plant, make it much more user-friendly. Open up the front entrance so there's a service desk when people walk in, someone to greet them, offer them discussions about the programs. And in total, I think we planned about $600,000 of upfront investment. And then as far as the employees go, we already know most of the employees just from being in the industry for so long. We plan on talking to them about their future, and hopefully they're part of our future.
Thank you. Okay, let's go down the line. Thank you.
Legoland does not operate ice skating rinks, so they wouldn't be operating this one. It would stay under the county. There was some discussion, it's because of the hurricane damage, as to whether that purpose would continue. The legislators approved funding 2 weeks ago, so that isn't really an issue anymore. There was some discussion, like I said, if that use was going to continue or not from a county perspective. but Legoland does not manage, so it would be outside in the counties.
Thank you.
You know, in terms of the ice skating ring, based on the feedback that we've gotten, there seems to there's demand for ice in Westchester County. So our current plan calls for keeping the ice casino as an ice casino. As a side note, that's where I learned how to skate. It clearly needs some investment. We've allocated hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. Our operator has run ice before, so we're open to running it. We're open to bringing someone into running it. Again, our plan actually does not assume that the ice casino is a profit center. So I think right now the ice casino loses at most $100,000, $200,000 a year. We believe with modestly better management, we could get it to be a break-even operation. That's all we assume. So we're not assuming anything more than that. As it relates to the employees, the comment I make about the ice casino is going to be relevant for pretty much all the employees at Playland. Our plan is a job creation plan. We plan to grow the park and grow the number of jobs, and we plan to offer the existing people employment.
Thank you.
As I said, we are mainly a amusement park operator, so we are really already discussed an open conversation with a couple of groups that will be interested to run the ice casino with us, and we intend to pursue that venue.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next question is one that I don't think we've actually dealt with before in this presentation, and that is many of the plans call for a lot of parking. How do you intend to handle the parking needs that your plan will assumes that you will need? What will happen if the parts of the plan, parts of your plan, I think this is more specific to sustainable because of the breakout, but if parts of the plan fail, how does that impact your parking needs and your parking strategy? So I guess just generally, what's your strategy for dealing with parking? Why don't you start first? Why doesn't Standard start first? Thank you.
Sure. Parking is clearly a big issue at Playland. We believe for the amusement park to actually function correctly, you have to at least maintain the current level of parking, and that's our very strong belief. In addition, you could see from our plans that there is some overflow parking on the isthmus. We're not planning on growing that because, again, we're sensitive to the Edith Reed, but we do plan to actually pave that and paint lines so we could do some more efficient parking. And then beyond that, and I'll defer to our presentation, which is public, we have a whole bunch of slides on our thoughts around traffic management, and there could be additional overflow at nearby parking lots with some shuttle service. So parking is clearly going to be a big issue for whoever has the opportunity to make the investment in Playland. And again, I would just also point that we do plan to have our community advisory board, so we plan to be very sensitive to the neighbors.
Excellent. Let's move on to Legoland. Have Legoland answer next.
We feel that the current parking is inadequate, and it's also poorly designed and has pedestrian safety issues as well, because you have the pedestrians having to cross over a lane of traffic coming into the park. We envision a complete change that has more driving paths inside the footprint to where you're getting people off of the main thoroughfare. Legoland has done this at several parks. They know what they're doing. They know how to get people off the road into the parking lot and parked. It's a very smooth, quick process so that you don't have people backed up. And it's a safer environment and a much more aesthetically pleasing than what's there right now as well, so the neighbors can have a pretty view versus what people are having to look at right now, as well as safety.
Thank you. Let's move on to sustainable. Thank you.
Parking is always a big issue. We are in the process. Our operators are doing parking studies now, and we're doing parking studies ourselves. We will be reducing the parking lot. It has to be intensely managed. One important difference with our plan, of course, is that we have less peaks. So our peaks are flattened out somewhat, and we have more year-round use. But it's a difficult resource. It needs to be intensely managed, and it has to be maximized wherever we can.
Okay, let's move on. Have Central answer this question. Thank you. I'm trying to, keep it even so everyone gets a chance to answer first.
Parking is very important to any amusement park's business plan. You have to consider parking as a tool to sustain your revenue so you can sustain your rides. So that in our plan, the parking would remain the same. We would keep also keep the parking in the overflow area, but not pave it, not create any more impervious areas in the park, but we would keep the parking throughout. It's important to be able to bring the crowd in, and then it's important to be able to move the crowd in and out during the day. So there has to be enough spaces. And in some cases, I can tell you on some days, on the weekends or on holidays, even the great number of spaces that Playland currently has is not enough. So there would be no reason to reduce the parking. Now, having said that, I just want to say a word about traffic. Traffic is, of course, always an issue, and traffic is an issue with which we will have to work very closely with the Rye Police, very closely with the Rye community, because especially at holidays, traffic wreaks havoc all over the area. And one way to make a physical improvement for that is to move the parking booths from where they are right now, the edge of the lot, and move them internally inside of the lot. That'll bring many more cars off of the road at any one given time and into the park, and hopefully become a method to ease the overall stress throughout the community.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is a series of questions about your outreach into the wider community. This specifically mentions sustainable, but obviously we're going to have all respondents answer. How does Playland's proposal beneficial to all Westchester County residents? Which proposal offers something for everyone, young, old, adventurous, less adventurous, poor, rich, athletic? Which proposal will attract the most local traffic repeatedly and visitors from New York City and other destinations? That's a little bit of a different question, but it's within the same theme. If your entity's proposal is selected by Westchester County, how do you plan to serve the widest constituency possible, including children, teens, and adults of all ages? Okay, so I think maybe perhaps Legoland, is first to answer this one.
We really feel that with a footprint this small, you can't be everything to everybody. Legoland concentrates on 2 to 12-year-olds. They do it really well, and as I said in the presentation, kids need to come first sometimes. That being said, grown-ups like Legos too. You do. You have teenage fanatics that will go because they like building the robots. But again, you're not going to please everybody, but they concentrate on what they do and doing it well. If, as far as the entire community is concerned, they do a lot of reach-out programs to the schools. There's people in Polk County, like I said, there was an article in the newspaper this past October for their 1-year anniversary, where a couple families, they said, they have annual passes. They go twice a week. They have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. They might only go for an hour or 2 hours. But with the annual passes, it's extremely economical to go multiple times. And they give their kids that opportunity to go, like I said, twice a week. So,
thank you. Sustainable Playland?
Those were a lot of questions, but I'll try and deal with at least a couple of pieces of it. We organized ourselves as a not-for-profit from the get-go, and really as a community-based organization with a community-based solution for Playland. We want to restore the historical and environmental integrity of Playland, and we're creating more open spaces. So addressing the question about how this relates to all of Westchester County, this plan and our vision does exactly that, because it creates open space, it creates athletic, it creates year-round uses, it restores, Playland, it creates a great access to the shoreline. So we feel like we've really touched on a lot of those bases. Now, how are we going to outreach to all of Westchester County? Because, of course, we're on one edge of it. So, and historically, Westchester County is kind of set up transportation-wise in a north-south fashion. So, you know, the challenge is for the east-west and to reach to the north and to the south. But we've addressed this and talked to our vendors about it. Dan, of course, is an expert in open space management and outreach efforts, but all of our vendors are committed to, in their businesses, to outreach for youth groups, hockey programs, the employment. So we've really studied this and thought about it. And our advisory council, we went out of our way to try and reach the entire county with our advisory council. And as we build our board and build our organizational capacity, we're looking to create that geographic diversity.
Thank you. Let's have Central answer this question next. Thank you.
Our target clientele would be the family. It's a family amusement park. So obviously you want the children, but we want mom and dad too. We even want grandma and grandpa, because that's the atmosphere we want to have in the park, and that's the way the park will sustain itself as well, financially, because mom and dad will go on some rides. Of course, the kids will knock themselves out and everything, but grandma and grandpa, they're the people who buy the candy apples. They're the people who buy the souvenirs. We want everyone. So there has to be family-friendly pricing, no admission fee at the gate. It has to be free. And so now, having said that, and our desire to attract the family, we need to do as well, we need to speak with the community on a regular basis, and we plan to do that. We plan to do that through a number of ways, through our Children's Center providing local programming with community input, through our relationship with the Children's Museum, and through our relationship that we'll forge with Edith Reed. We will have many touch points into the community. We also plan to regularly meet with elected officials, regularly meet with community leaders, and to have open and broad discussions about how we may be good and better neighbors all of the time. We will recruit our staff, our summer workers in the local schools and through the local community organizations. We will even work with the colleges to create a program for young people who wish to enter the amusement park industry to learn it and hopefully get credits. So we plan a large community program, and we plan a community program that is to be ever-present, constant, and evolving.
Thank you. Now Standard, please. Standard Amusement.
Sure, it's a good question. How is it beneficial to everyone? You know, well, first, let's just start off with the premise that this is a Westchester County asset. And the first thing a lot of people think about when you think about Playland is the amusement park. And we intend to fully keep the amusement park. And a lot of people are quite fond of that, and that's important to a lot of people. You know, the second element, though, is Playland's a large space. We're going to maintain public access to all the public areas. So that's the beach, the boardwalks. We're going to keep access to Edith Reed. We're going to make sure that it's done in a sustainable way. We're going to add free fields. We're not going to charge anyone. Free fields for the community, 4 of them, for everyone's benefit. So we think our proposal brings a lot of benefits to Westchester County. And I'll go a step further. You know, we plan to fund all the money for this project. We don't plan to move this entity to another entity and then go issue municipal debt that ultimately the residents are responsible for. We're going to put up the money, and the county is going to benefit from that. You know, as it relates to visitors from other areas, and, you know, I'd just say everyone's welcome to Playland. You know, it's an open admission, but, you know, again, go back to my initial statement. This is a Westchester County asset. The focus is for the people of Westchester County. It is the largest summer youth employer of Westchester County. So on many, many levels, and the jobs that are there and are created, you know, it's all about Westchester.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, we're going to have sustainable answer first. Under each proposal, who will assume liability in the event of accidents or lawsuits? Well, I'll ask Sustainable to answer that question first.
Well, we'll have an extensive insurance program, just like every other operator is going to have. So.
All right, and then let's have Central Amusement go next.
Yes.
Okay, so the question was, under each proposal, who will assume liability in the event of lawsuit? So yes.
We will have an extensive insurance program. We're sensitive to nature. We love children. We love families. And we're going to improve the food.
Okay, excellent. All right.
We'll stipulate that.
Yes, Legoland would definitely be responsible for everything they touched.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question. Some of this we've touched on. How are the employees going to be included in the proposals? What will happen to the Westchester County employees? How will you retain youth employment? We've heard Westchester County is a major youth employer in our county. What's your plans with respect to that? Would Central Amusement like to answer first?
It's CAI's intention that no Westchester County employee loses their job. It's CAI's intention to work together with the county and with the union to find ways to be able to blend the existing employees together with CAI's own employees all at the same time. But the overriding effort, the overriding reach at all times is no job loss. Everyone retains a job.
Thank you. Let's move on to Standard Amusements.
Yeah, so as we've already stated, so we plan to offer employment to all the existing employees. Where the current union is a municipal union, so we're open to working with them to the extent that can't be done in the format we're proposing. We're very open to entering into a new collective bargaining agreement with those people. Again, we kind of think about the world in terms of full-time jobs as well as part-time. We plan to grow the full-time jobs kind of low single-digit percentage a year, maintain all salaries and benefits. This is not a cost-cutting plan, it's a growth plan. In addition, we plan on growing seasonal employment by 5 to 10%.
Thank you. Let's move on to Legoland.
With Legoland, we're anticipating over 1,000 jobs, which means the people that are currently employed there would be able to find a new home, as well as several others, both youth, middle-aged, grandparents, doesn't matter. We love them all.
Thank you.
Dan Biederman, Sustainable Playland. We believe employment will probably double. Restaurants will be key employers. There are not large restaurants now. They're wonderful employers if they're good to their people, which we will recruit people who will be. Seasonal needs for students and the like will remain. Many of the existing people will be hired. We've had good experience building employment. Bryant Park had 3 employees when we took it over from the city. It now has, and if you count the restaurants and everything else we installed there, about 600. So 300 to 600. We don't expect something that radical, but doubling would not be a surprise to us at all.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, the next series of questions is around some of the financial arrangements. How much money does each respondent have on hand for this project? Very often construction projects are run out of money because anticipated costs are higher. What are the terms of each proposal regarding guaranteeing payments to the county? And what is your budget or strategy for maintenance? This is historically the #1 problem with amusement parks. Let's ask Standard Amusement to answer that question first.
Sure. So, look, one of the things we think is a key differentiator of our proposal is we do have the cash on hand. So we don't need to go out. We don't need to fundraise. We could put all the cash in a bank account day one. We're committing $25 million to the project. There's a fairly large contingency to address the concern about what if the project doesn't perform in line with expectations. Frankly, we're the ones at risk for that. So again, the county is protected from that in the event that it doesn't go according to our plan. But we think we've built in adequate cushion for things that go against us. What was the rest of it? I guess the
financial arrangements with Westchester County.
Yeah.
And the budget for maintenance.
Yeah, sure. So budget for maintenance is pretty easy. I mean, I think in the first 2 years, and this is maintenance plus growth, we're spending 10 to 12 million. In the first 5 years, $20 million. Our maintenance capital number for the park is on the order of $1 million to $1.5 million a year. That's just maintenance capital, and that's versus I think what they're spending now is like roughly $100,000 a year. So it's a huge factor more. In terms of the structure, I don't want to put everyone to sleep at 9-10 at night going into the complications around entering into a management agreement with a public park, but you could think of it as this is going to be structured as a management agreement. So Playland's going to be transferred to a nonprofit. We'll have an independent board that oversees it, and we will have a management agreement which will commit us to spend the capital to run the park, and will give us control to manage the park as we see fit. It'll be 15 years. This is a very important number, because there are a number of issues with the county's municipal debt, as well as alienation issues if you go beyond that, which we spent a lot of time and money researching.
Okay, thank you. Legoland?
Currently, we're anticipating investing between $150 and $200 million in the original build-out. That money is on hand. This isn't just something that we say we can do. It is something that they have done over and over again. Legoland, Florida opened on time, on budget, not any financing problems. Malaysia opened just this past October, no financing problems. The money is not an issue, but beyond opening day, a significant amount of money is reinvested for refurbishments on a constant basis. They maintain their facility top-notch. They keep the aesthetics to a premium constantly, whether it's vegetation replanting, whether it's just your basic maintenance, whether it's improving a ride, adding rides, whatever the case might be. On an average, every 4 years, another $25 million would be reinvested.
Excellent, thank you. Sustainable Playland?
Yep.
Excellent.
Thank you. My name is Joe Carlucci. I'm a member of the Board of Sustainable Playland. The proposal we submitted to the county takes a portfolio approach in the sense that we have a number of different operators who will operate different elements within the park, as Kim Orquay said earlier. The funding for that is going to come from the operators themselves. That's the proposal that we submitted. The operators in the aggregate are going to spend about $25 million, and we're going to spend, we being Sustainable Playland, for the open common areas, are going to spend approximately another $8.5 million. So our investment up front is going to be $33.5 million. The operators are responsible for getting their own capital, and they're committed to do that. We are looking at an alternative method of financing in which we may try to roll all the individual ones up into one bond financing, but that's an alternative we are exploring. As I said, our approach is a portfolio approach. I think part of the question was what happens if some element goes under. We have multiple operators, all experienced, all well-financed, but there's a possibility one could go under, but that isn't going to crash the park. The other proposals basically are you're dealing with one company, so there's some risk in that. But I don't know. Was another part of the question related to that?
The budget for maintenance, ongoing maintenance?
I don't recall what that was in what was proposed, but Dan is responsible for being the operator on a daily basis, so he's figuring that budget out.
Thank you.
Roughly sanitation, security, horticulture, repair and replacement for the common areas outside of the operators' areas, roughly $3 million a year. And we're budgeting it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Can I finish answering?
Okay.
Sorry, the arrangements with the county, I forgot that half. That number is still in the works depending on how much the actual investment level is. But we're anticipating it being in the millions to where the county is not having to worry about Playland again.
Thank you. Okay, Central Amusements, thank you for allowing that little.
Yeah, we don't have $150 million to invest in a park that right now does 500,000 people a year. It will not be able to sustain that kind of investment. On our business plan, we're going to be raising slowly in a few years' time from 500,000 to 850,000 people, like it was doing before the Great Recession after 2007. Anyway, so having said that, we are still planning to invest over the first 5 years, $25 million, and they will come from our company. We're already running 2 amusement parks in New York, so we have some certain economy of scale. We're also buying our rides from wholesales because we're also manufacturing them, so that's a great advantage to our other operators. And with the county, I think we are proposing a minimum rent plus a 10% of our revenue as a rent per year. And as far as maintenance for the rides, we have great experience how to maintain our amusement ride. We are taking over the cycle of every 85 years old amusement ride, that coaster. And in the first 2 years in the city, we invest $1.2 million. So that ride never seen so much investment in probably 85 years of existence. And we are considering allocating 5% of the revenue toward the infrastructure of the park.
Okay, thank you. That actually leads into the next question, which is, what is your anticipated attendance at the park in the early years, and then as you go on as a park as it's ramped up? Who answered first? Yeah, okay. Okay, so Legoland, please.
Okay. The initial year of attendance, we're estimating over 1 million, and ramping up to closer to 1.5 million. This is over an extended period, not just the season that it currently operates at. This is a longer season, so the daily attendance would be closer to some of the peak days now. So like I said, it's over in a longer period. It's not crammed up into 3 months.
Okay, excellent. Sustainable Playland, please.
I'm going to introduce Steve Turk,
okay,
our amusement park operator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. One thing I forgot or wasn't mentioned is we have already spent extensive amount of time at the park. Let me just get out of the light there. And we've already walked the roller coaster. We already conservatively estimated that the roller coaster, the Dragon Coaster, needs upwards of $300,000 worth of renovation. It hasn't been painted in about 10 years. So we're going to go about it from a real nuts and bolts perspective, stick by stick, as well as investing new rides into the park. Conservatively, we estimate to get an annual attendance just into the dry amusement zone alone between opening weekend in May, closing somewhere approximately around October. We're going to do a wild Halloween festival, of course, keeping up with the current operation. We estimate conservatively approximately 500,000 visitors. Once we invest into the beach zone and the aqua zone, which is kind of like what Tibbetts Brook Park is, but imagine what Disney would do to it, or Lego. That's what I'm going to do. And another 200 to 250,000 in annual attendance is what we estimate into the new renovated beach and to the Aquaplay Adventure Zone. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Okay, we'll have Central Amusements next. Thank you.
I think I answered this question
Yes.
with 537 the first year, and then gradually will go up in 5 years' time to 850,000 people.
Thank you. And finally, Standard Amusements.
We're operating under the assumption that, again, given that we're not fundamentally changing the park, we're just trying to restore it to its prior grandeur. We'll get back to peak levels of attendance, prior peak levels of attendance, and we don't assume much more of that, even though population growth has occurred in the area. So specifically, initially the current attendance is around 500,000. We're assuming that goes up to 750,000 the second year, and ultimately towards 1 million. And we basically, for purposes of thinking about going forward, cap it at 1 million, even though there were years prior, again, some debate about how you count people in cars, where there was as much as 1.1 million visitors.
Thank you. Okay, the next set of questions have to do with some of the operations, some of which might have been answered already, but I'd like you to package them all together. Will the proposals keep the playground area open and the walking area open? Is the primary goal of the proposals to maintain open space for all? Are you going to be open year-round? Will dogs still be allowed in the beach in the off-season? So if you could talk a little bit about how you see the park operating all year round and what areas will be accessible to the public. I'll ask Sustainable actually to start this time. Thank you.
Let's see. Yes,
So,
yes.
I
I
guess
think
that-
I was
what-
yes to all of them, actually.
Yes, yes. So just talk a little bit
Yeah.
about
No, we
the
do see
open
the park
space.
as being open. It's a gated system now, and we don't think that that's the right approach to the amusement park. And the Great Lawn and the shore and all of those elements will be open on a year-round basis.
Okay, so
and of course, our plan fundamentally is a year-round plan to activate the park and with the different venues and the sports and rec and so forth, restaurants on a year-round basis. And I might add, it's an important element, and I'm sure these gentlemen are very good at what they do as well, but Dan Biederman is probably the best in the country in terms of programming of open space and public space. So that will be a key element of our plan.
Oh, and I have to ask because I'll get in trouble at home if I don't. What about dogs on the beach?
Yes, absolutely. Considering who we're sitting next to, absolutely.
Okay.
We love dogs.
Excellent, as does many members of our legislature. All right, let's have Central Amusement go next.
Our answers are all yes as well. We intend to keep the park accessible on a year-round basis. We will have the adventure golf outside the gate. We'll do things together with the community and the Parks Department on the boardwalk to create special events there. We'll have the Children's Center open on a year-round basis, and yes, we'll maintain access to the shore, to the sound, and obviously to Reed. Now, I have to chuckle for a second because if any of you know me, and I think some of you do, I was once the director of Playland, you'll know that I was not a big fan of dogs on the beach. And I was not because of sanitary reasons. I've since been educated since the policy had changed, and apparently it works. So we'll give a yes to the dogs as well.
We're going to maintain open access to all the public spaces. So again, the boardwalks, the beach, it's going to be additive with the fields, Edith Reed. So I think all that will be the same or improved for people. We're all for making it a little bit more of a year-round destination. I mean, the amusement park, we're thinking about trying to extend the season a little bit to do a Halloween haunt and things for kids. But we certainly would love to see a variety of restaurants, all different tiers that would be open year-round. And as for dogs on the beach, I have a French bulldog and a toy poodle. The toy poodle has been there. The French bulldog hopes to go there soon.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, now Legoland.
I just wanted to
Sorry.
add that we still love children.
Well, children and dogs go together.
What we would like to do, the beach area would be maintained essentially by the county, so it would continue with the same allowances for public access. We would actually have a streamlined, easier access to get from, for the general public that's not interested in going to Legoland, to be able to access those areas because it's going to be more integrated into the overall flow. The boardwalk as well, we would like, even though it's outside the gate, Legoland has discussed the possibility of investing some into the boardwalk to enhance the appearance, to incorporate that more into the whole Legoland feel with maybe some models and educational displays, things like that, so that it's incorporated into the whole thing, but it's still public access and outside. They feel it's very important for the community.
Thank you. I have a number of questions that are have some specific questions about rides and other types of operations, which I'm going to synthesize together. So basically, tell us a little bit about how you feel, what the importance is of the historic status of the park, what rides will you maintain, if any, what type of, let's see, well, this one is specific to the airplane roller coaster, but what type of specific rides do you see staying or not staying? And could you give us a little bit of history or overview as to what the amusement area, the significance of the amusement area in your plan. So the relative size of the amusement area. I think this is a question that was more specifically to sustainable, but I'd like for you all to answer a little bit about the historic nature and what you keep of the existing rides, especially the landmarked rides. So sustainable start first. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's key foundation of our plan was to keep all of the historic rides, all of the historic buildings for that matter, and restore really the original elements of the park, many of which have been removed. And so it's a fundamental part of our proposal to keep and restore all of the historic rides and the buildings and the colonnades, for example. So.
Okay, thank you.
Dhruv Narain from Sustainable Playland. One of the things I'd really like to talk about with respect to the amusement park is, I don't know if some of you heard, but Tim Cook, who's the CEO of Apple, was at a technology conference yesterday. And somebody asked him and said, gee, Samsung Galaxy has the biggest, best screen out there. And don't you have the biggest, best screen? What is Apple's idea to get the biggest, best screen out there? And you know what Tim Cook said? Tim Cook said, listen, we're in the business. The only mantra, the only religion that Apple has is that we'd never make a crappy product. Every time you take one of our products, we want you to have an aha moment. And the thing about our screens is not that it's the biggest screen, because PC manufacturers for years and years and years competed on, do you have the fastest processor? Do you have the most memory, et cetera? But that's not what's important. What's important is that you take our screen, it's got Retina display, it's got the best interface with respect to when you want to run something. It's got the best platform. It's got the best operating system. It's got a much better operating system than Android. And so the fundamental pieces about our plan is not to have the biggest amusement park. The fundamental pieces of our plan is to have an integrated park that works for every one of the million Westchester residents, whether you just want to take a stroll in the park, whether you just want to come there to eat cotton candy, whether you want to come there to play sports, whether you want to come there to jog in the park, whether you want to play, come to the amusement rides, whether you want to come there to see a show, whatever you want to do, and they all work seamlessly. And we're going to offer you a product every single time that's going to have an aha moment, the magic that you felt, and the magic you feel every time you open up an iPhone.
Thank you. Sir, may I ask?
I'm not sure what this had to do with the question, because the presentation was something else that was done before. So, but the question was.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we're going to ask the other vendors to answer the question now. Central Amusements,
Thank
please.
you very much. No, we give great importance to it, and we want to maintain the historic ride, of course, like we're doing in Coney Island, and also the historic building. We are an amusement ride manufacturer, and we keep a particular eyes to the historic fact of the rides, and more often than, especially recently, we are taking very old attraction and coming up with new idea, keeping also the theme around the original attraction. Like if you had the chance to look at our proposal, we have a very detailed plan that over 5 years we're going to be introducing several rides, 22 rides. Each one of them, they're going to be very they're going to pay a lot of attention to the art deco of Ride Playland. So we're not going to do anything that is going to be like a smashy and off the scale with the park.
Thank you. Standard Amusements?
Yeah, I'll just say a couple words, and then you could hear directly from our operator, Jack Falfus. But again, we're passionate about the amusement park. The historic rides are what makes the park. I mean, this is not Six Flags. This is Ride Playland, and it's a historic place, and that should be preserved and brought back to the way it was. With me is Jack Falfus, who's our operator with over 40 years of experience. So, Jack, why don't you say a few words?
Well, I'm close to that age, but a little short of 40. I'm glad to see that there's another Apple fan here. I really like that emotion. Tonight I've listened to, and I'll tie it all together, 4 separate proposals, and they're all great. I've been to Legoland. I think Legoland in San Diego and Florida are excellent. Sustainables program, I enjoyed listening to that and see there. I know Central Amusements, they're good operators. You know, Valerio and Ramon are good friends of mine, along with Joe. Our proposal is we're an amusement park operator, and that was our intent. There was another good thing that was said in this room that I think should be ringing in everybody's ear, and that was the fact that there's going to be, and when Nick signed me up and talked me into this project, that there would be sufficient money to restore quality back into those rides. I'm big on safety, and I believe that I've seen those rides. I've read the state reports, and I've had friends who are maintenance specialists look at some of those rides. And I know to an extent what they need. They are historic rides. And I'm a believer in amusement parks, and I'm a believer in historic rides. I'm a believer in having a good family atmosphere in there, a safe venue. And when I say safe, it's two words. One, the equipment, but two, that feeling that you have when you walk around with your family. And everyone in here knows what they mean. And you've been to locations where you might not feel that intense. I think there's a ton of talent in this room that are proposing this. All I can say is that if given the opportunity, it would be our pleasure to invest the funds and restore Rye Beach Playland to its earlier grandeur. And hopefully you'd want to come back with your families and walk around it individually. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. And we'll ask Legoland to answer this question.
The historic rides are important to Playland. Some of them are not kid-friendly to 2 to 12-year-olds. And some of those would have to listen to the community to see if moving them slightly outside the gates, or so there's some other opportunity to where they're still available to the community, but they're not too, especially the Derby. That's a big kid ride. It's not meant for 2 to 12-year-olds, but it's a historic ride. It's important. But Legoland is respectful of the historic nature. At Legoland at Florida, for example, there were rides that when they first looked at the property, they said, no, we don't want it. It doesn't fit our style. It's not right for the kids, or for one reason or another, they said they didn't want it, and the community said, no, we like that ride. One of them in particular was the Island in the Sky. It's a historic ride that had been there for forever. They said, well, okay, you guys want it. We will retheme it. We'll make it a Lego Island in the Sky. So the ride is still there. You know, it's those type of things. They have to pay attention to the fact that they're looking at 2 to 12-year-olds, but they also want to respect the historic nature. So if it's not something that's 100, like I said, the Derby racer, a compromise would be reached that satisfies both the historic nature and their need to focus on that particular age group.
Thank you. Thank you. There are several questions that we did not have a chance to get to tonight. We are going to have all of the questions and the answers, as I mentioned, available on the Government Operations website. We'll also have this video available on that site, and we will send that out fairly widely so that people have a chance to review the presentations and the questions and answers that were given. I had several questions about the process. I do want to address that a little bit. Basically, as you know, the request for proposals went out several years ago. The administration did a review and did choose their preferred respondent. At the Board of Legislators, it's our responsibility to provide legislative oversight, and we have chosen to do it in a shorter time frame. We've been working for the past, I would say, probably 3 months now, hearing the proposals, making the proposals available, asking several follow-up questions. All of the respondents, the 12 respondents, were actually asked if they wanted to come back and speak to the Government Operations Committee. These 4 were the respondents who chose to do so. We are going through a very rigorous evaluation process. The Government Operations Committee meets almost without fail on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock. Next week, we are going to meet on Wednesdays because of the President's Day holiday. You are certainly very welcome to attend any of our meetings where Playland is on the agenda. We can arrange, if you've left us with your email address, we can arrange to have you sent the agenda every week so you know what we're discussing if you'd like to sit in the room and participate. I am also very, very open to answering questions from the public. If you'd like to send me personally an email, or really any member of the Government Operations Committee, an email, all of our emails are listed on the Board of Legislators website. I think that I really want to thank people for coming out, for staying. It's a little bit later than we intended, and I know it is time to wrap up, especially because there is a little bit of snow happening outside apparently. So I do want to be respectful of that, but I want to say that the Board of Legislators is very much committed to doing a very rigorous process. We have started the evaluation process. All of the documentation that we receive as part of that process and produce as part of that process will be on our website. There are many, many, many things to consider, much of which has been discussed today, not only the financial arrangements, but also preserving this asset, this iconic asset of Westchester County for all of Westchester County and beyond. Many, many, many years into the future, we take that responsibility very seriously. We do, and of course there are a lot of environmental concerns at that site since it is a sensitive site, and we're very well aware of that. We do intend to continue this conversation for at least several weeks. We will be working collaboratively with the administration, and we believe at the end of it that the process is enriched by this level of dialogue, intercourse with the community, back and forth. We've always noticed that when we open up our decision-making process to many eyes, that process is improved. So we thank you all very much, even if you've come here to advocate for one proposal, to be educated on all the proposals. And we hope, we feel confident, feel very optimistic that at the end of this process, we'll come up with a very, very excellent future for Playland. So I want to thank you again for coming. We are all open to questions, both by phone or by email. Any questions that we receive written that we feel is a useful question that has general interest, we certainly will post all of those on the website. So you'll be able to really track and be part of this process as we go forward. Thank you to all of our respondents. You all did a very excellent job. We're lucky to have such good choices in front of us. Thank you very much. Good night. Get home safely, everybody.